And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. This is Lakers Snack Pack, everyone. How you doing out there? It's Gerald Glasser. Coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Our latest episode covers the latest Nintendo Direct coming up here on Friday, but we covered this past weekend the hit Inside Out 2 and more. So go ahead and check out everything that we're talking about the Pop Culture Cosmos today. Plus also Inside Sports Fantasy Football will be coming around with new episodes in the not too distant future when the season arises. Also as well, of course, Joe Soros here. He is the guy behind Simblades. Simblades with a Y.com. Also as well, of course, you know him as Ox1947. And of course, LakersBall.com. Our good friend Empire Jeff TV. Hopefully you caught his episode yesterday because we were dark outside of a little 10-minute snippet I threw up there. Hopefully you got a chance to check out Empire Jeff's latest television episode right there for you on YouTube. Go ahead and check out his episode today after you watch us here. And plus also Lakers in 5. Of course, John McKeelian as well. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. The Lakerholics crew, which we posted yesterday. The never-ending arguers, Laker Tom and Jamie Sweet. And also as well, of course, John Costa, Clutch Talk Lakers Corner. All these great channels. And the guy who is working extra hard this draft season at report_court, a.k.a. Stone Hansen on Twitter. Please go ahead and support all these great people today. And then, of course, support us as well by liking and subscribing. Hit that subscribe button because you'll get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. Well, the Lakers, I know Joe had said that he was expecting some kind or thinking some kind of movement and some kind of action would be taking place behind the scenes in El Segundo with a coach or players or something, but all quiet on the Western Front. A lot of speculation yesterday from various people, various sources said the deal was done. LeBron wire, the deal is done for JJ Redick. Well, 24 hours later than that, the deal's not done yet. And with the firing today, very surprising to me, of Monty Williams in Detroit after only 1 year with still 5 years and $65 million remaining on his contract. That's a lot of money you have to eat there. Now available, is there a possibility of him becoming a candidate for the Lakers coaching job? Because there's no word yet on the status of JJ Redick. People say it's close. People say it's a done deal. If it's done, why hasn't it happened already? We're now 1 week out from the NBA draft and no news yet on that. Plus, also as well, we want to talk about Rich Paul from Clutch making more comments on LeBron saying, sorry, Eli in Phoenix Suns fan you are. He is not signing a minimum contract deal, and it's not a guarantee that he has to be in the same place and the same time on the same team as Bronny James. So those comments were made earlier, so we could talk about that as well. But you know what? Monty Williams is out there. Does this change things? It was said in the Twitter, as far as, of course, the reports that said that Monty supposedly was trying to go ahead and take some time off before he got the offer for Detroit because his current wife, has unfortunately going through some tough times battling breast cancer. And our thoughts are with the Williams family on that, but he was given the offer that he just couldn't refuse, so he took it.
His wife has cancer?
Breast cancer, yes. It was reported that he wanted to be with his wife for breast cancer.
Then he loses a wife.
Yes. So
wow.
He decided he was going to take a year off after he got fired from Phoenix, but the offer was, let's just say the offer that the Lakers didn't give Dan Hurley, I guess at the time, an offer he couldn't refuse. So he didn't refuse it, took it. Obviously, the year went where it did. They replaced Troy Reaver with Trajan Langdon, and Trajan Langdon wants his own guy in there and is willing for the organization to choke $65 million to do so. So there we have it, Joe. The availability now of Monty Williams. I don't know the parameters of whether or not he gets to keep that whole cash if he takes on another coaching job, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. He is heavily incentivized to take time off to spend with his wife while she deals with this very serious and tough issue. The question is, will he get a call from El Segundo?
No, Monty Williams is not the right coach for the Lakers. Monty Williams has a lot of the same issues Darvin Ham's and a lot of these stubborn coaches have.
He is a former coach of the year. I'm just putting that out there, Joe. I'm just telling you, saying it is. So,
I've read a few things about Monty besides watching him coach. Some have said that when he was in Phoenix, Chris Paul covered up a lot of his mistakes. That's not.
And by the way, Empire Jeff says he gets to keep the money over when anybody else pays him to the $65 million. Must be nice.
Who asked that question?
I did. I said, I'm not sure. Whenever coaches get fired and rehired, that's with years. Let's say Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham, I believe, is still, of course, making, getting paid by the Lakers, getting checks from the Lakers for the next 2 years, despite the fact he took on an assistant coaching job in Milwaukee.
A good motivator, not a good X's and O's guy, stubborn in a lot of ways. That typically is the NBA coaching ranks in abundance. The Lakers need someone that can motivate, but there needs to be some innovation with the roster, mainly Anthony Davis. And it doesn't look like there's a coach out there. That's why this is taking so long. And there is no positive in what happens next. There isn't. There isn't a coach. The reason why it's taking so long is because there isn't the right coach. So now they have to sit here and eat it at some point, knowing that they're probably going to be firing that guy in about a year or two. That's the reality of this, unless there's a massive overhaul on the roster where the Lakers get 2 dynamite players that help them win a championship. But it's just the Lakers don't look. They're just not in a good position, and the timing is horrible. What would have been best is if this had happened last year. That's why I was saying fire Darvin Ham last year. I know he took you to the Western Conference Finals, but I would have fired him and gotten Nick Nurse, because you got to pick that a better coach, and that would have been the best move. Now, I don't know if Nick Nurse would have come, but my point is I would have been aggressive with that. If there was a similar instance in 2003 when Rick Carlisle was the coach of the Pistons. Joe Dumars fired Rick Carlisle, who didn't have a bad season that year, but he knew Larry Brown was out there, and look what happened after that. So there isn't anyone this year. There isn't anyone. We saw what happened with Dan Hurley. I think he would have been a good coach. The problem is his baggage showed itself late here. I wasn't a big fan of what transpired afterwards. Listening to members of the family discussing things that I don't really give 2 craps to listen to. I don't give a damn what anyone thinks other than the people that are involved in the process. We're not talking about buying a house. We're not talking about catering to amenities. We're talking about coaching the goddamn LA Lakers. And you don't know anything about that. And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your mouth, your voice, or whether you exist. You all know how I am with the personal stuff. You all know this. I want to talk to the players, the coaches, and the executives that have been hired to do a job. I don't care about your family and what's going on there. I don't want to see them or hear them.
I thought, seriously, Joe, because
I still don't know who Jerry West's wife is. How long have we known Jerry West, God rest his soul? I still don't know who it is. I don't even know who Charles Barkley's wife is. I didn't even know he had kids. That's how you do it. That's how you stay a professional. And saying Charles Barkley is a professional can be funny sometimes, but in the end, he does the right things right. And yeah, he irritates, but in the end, he does things right. So I'm just saying, I don't pay attention to that stuff. It's not my business. You want me to leave you alone when you're out in public going and buying milk at the grocery store? Guess what, folks? You need to return the favor. Don't tell me about what's going on in your house. It has nothing to do with what we're looking at here. And that is the problem. That is the problem right now, is they can't figure out how to get someone out there that's going to matter. And a lot of that isn't really their fault. But then again, they put themselves in this position because they don't know who to hire every other year. And now this is what it's come down to.
I was just telling Eric, he threw that out there, and I kind of put the kibosh on it because I thought there's no way you, as a responsible organization, would throw away $65 million down the drain by jettisoning Monty Williams. Huh. I guess it's okay. I guess they are just making so much cash in Detroit, the mecca of basketball that it is right now, with the outstanding team that they put out there for the fans each and every night, that it's okay to go ahead and throw away $65 million. That just tells me, Joe, with something you said, that TV contract now and the TV contract upcoming are lucrative enough to go ahead and afford doing things like this. It's just amazing.
Let's look at the numbers here.
Must be pizza,
it's
right?
50-50,
Pizza
right?
empire, Jeff.
It's 50-50 players to owners, right? That's the split in money.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do the numbers. So there's going to be the new contract. I don't know when it really officially got through, but it was $76 million for 11 years. That comes out to $2.5 billion a year per team. And then they split that with their...
Oh, billion. Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah. They'll split that money somehow, some way through all 30 teams, where 50-50 goes to the players. So the team is making, just off the TV contracts, $1.25 billion a year. Again, I don't know if that's how the split works, but I'm just going by the basic info from the collective bargaining agreement.
And let me add out something onto this.
So what is $75 million from that? Does that really affect $1.25 billion? Sure, yeah, it's a hit, but you also have advertising that you do at the arena. You got concessions, you got fans paying tickets, you got God knows how many other things you can do. Plus, that the owner of the team probably has other businesses. He can write things off. I mean, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL they're foolproof. There's no losing in those leagues anymore.
Well, let me just say this again. Barbie Marks earlier today put the unofficial luxury tax payments out there per team. And Golden State, obviously was going to be number one, almost $177 million in tax payments. The Clippers, 142, Phoenix, 68, Milwaukee, 52. And then you get down to the last team, Joe, which was the Los Angeles Lakers, which had a luxury tax payment of $7 million, which means they could have just made one move, like I talked about, to get rid of one player, Christian Wood. They could have just jettisoned him, found a way, not picked up Dinwiddie, which, obviously we saw it didn't really help that much at all. And they would have collected just about $12 million instead. So again, I know these are just small amounts of money to these teams, Joe, but really it's about financial and fiscal responsibility. You've got the Lakers.
The narrative of they're cheap, yet they didn't risk, or they risked keeping Christian Wood for the long haul. You can't have it both ways. Either they're cheap or they're not cheap. If they were cheap, they would have made that move, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so they didn't.
So anybody who says they're cheap,
you can't criticize them for that, for being cheap at that point.
Yeah, you can. Anybody who says that they are
If you're
cheap
talking about
in
from a
that way,
business
you
standpoint,
can.
yes. If you want to sit here and say Genie and the LA Lakers don't have a clue on how to manage money, absolutely, you're right. But if you're going to sit there and say that they're cheap, then that doesn't make any sense. That would be
I
a
didn't say they're
question to
cheap. I'm
ask
not
them.
saying they're cheap. I just said that they
I'm
blew
not. I'm
it.
not saying
They're
you
not-
are. I'm talking about
Right.
there's a narrative that they're cheap, right?
Yes.
So that already kind of doesn't make sense. If they're cheap, if they were cheap, that was actually a smart business move. You would have said, yeah, that makes sense.
I was saying.
But see, it's easy to say that now. You didn't know that Christian Wood was going to flame out at the end.
But I was saying, I was telling people for days leading up to the draft, they just need to make a small, if they're not going to make a big splash, Joe, they need to just make a small move to get themselves
but you already have a team that doesn't have any depth. You're going to get rid of at least one guy that might have been able to give you something towards the end of the season. That doesn't make any sense.
Did Christian Wood really give us?
You know that now. I'm talking about then. You didn't know
February,
that then. It's easy to say that now.
February could have gotten rid of Cam Reddish or one of those guys that really just wasn't.
You could have gotten rid of Cam Reddish, absolutely.
Oh, there you go.
Wasn't he injured?
He might have been injured at that point.
So you couldn't get rid of him as injured, right? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Again, you could have found a way. They were just $3 million above the tax. Now they paid 6.9 in tax.
And that's another thing. All I'm hearing now is how amazing. And by the way, they've done a great job. I'm not saying they haven't, but now the Celtics info, because they've won, dude, they've been good for the last 5 years. It's just they haven't won a championship. And people as in the media, the little parasite, cockroach, the shit of the cockroach, not even a cockroach. These people were still doing stupid stuff like putting the camera on Jason Tatum and saying, look at his face because Jaylen Brown got the finals MVP. Those people need to be put in acid. Seriously. Like, just not have any forum to anything. Those guys are trash. Like, what's the problem with these people?
I can see Joe during the Salem witch trials. That's all I'm picturing now.
Just
put them in acid.
They have footage of his face, and he wasn't even doing anything. Look how upset he is. I'm like, where? He's just won a championship. Those are the things that need to be plugged out. You plug those things out, you'll start enjoying sports a little bit more.
Now, Empire Jeff earlier in the chat came back to us, said, okay, they're not cheap on the players, but they're cheap on so many other things, as far as coaches, assistants, trainers, et cetera, compared to other NBA organizations.
I wouldn't say cheap on the coaching thing either. They needed to do a big splash, but they weren't cheap. And it turned out now that it was a good deal, considering what they might have had to have dealt with.
Okay. Again, I don't know, just some things that they do.
They weren't cheap on the Caruso thing, Bloodhound. They made a mistake. They went with the wrong guy.
They put all their horses behind and money behind THT and
yeah, they thought
he's a free agent now.
They thought THT, who was 7 years younger, they thought maybe they had a little bit more with him, but he flamed out.
Yep. But he's available as a free agent, which is something I want to talk about right now. And once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro, aka Ox1947. Please go ahead and check him out today at Simblades, SimbladesWithAY.com, and of course, LakersBall.com. Empire Jeff is in the chat, or at least he still was there. Legend 350, let me know if you're available sometime this weekend or later this week. Love to go ahead and chit chat with you, because I hear your plans may be changing on a number one pick. Risa Shea, Donovan Klingen's name is now being bandied about. Sarr's name is not being bandied about as much as the number one pick. So, as we all suspected, it's anyone's game right now for the number one pick. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Plus, if you have any trades for the Lakers in regards to Murray or Young coming to the Lakers, love to hear your thoughts on that as well. So please, Legend 350, hit me up on the email. I'd love to go ahead and set something up with you right away. But of course, it is the Lakers Fast Break. Joe, I know that we're getting close to the draft next week. And again, if anybody's out there in the chat that wants to participate and draft for some of the teams, Laker Tom has already got the Lakers. He called it already. But if any, some of the other teams in the first round, you want to do it from the chat, please let me know or email me, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. We'd love to get you involved in our mock draft starting at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday and 3 p.m. on the West Coast. So love to do so. So yeah, let me hear from you in the chat if you wanted to go ahead and pick a team, not the Lakers, that you will go ahead and draft in the first round. And love to have you be part of what we're doing at the mock draft. But before we get to the draft and the Bronny James discussion, you had made a remark, and I thought it was pretty wise, saying that the Lakers and every other NBA team would have the ability to start negotiating with its soon-to-be free agents or individuals who could become free agents by getting out of their last year of their contracts right away after the NBA Finals close. But after all this said and done, Joe, in 2 days, we've only heard about two. One is that Gary Payton II is exercising his option at $9 million, which after the kind of season he had is very sound. And Pascal Siakam, that was one of the one I think you had a beat on. That was pretty good that they actually have signed and locked him up to about it averages out to about $50 million a year for 4 years. So your thoughts on why there's not been as much action on that front, and possibly even in the front of El Segundo, you haven't heard anything from them on a coach and a player as well.
What player?
Any player like LeBron or D'Lo.
Coming back. That's done. That's a done deal before it's done. The only noise coming out of LA right now is which coach. No one knows. That you have a bunch of hacks that continue to say this guy's going to get hired on Tuesday. Deal. Yeah, it's a done deal. Again, I'm going to explain to everyone again for the 100th time. Stop posting these chumps info. Stop commenting on posts that are clickbait. Otherwise, I'll keep making them. Don't recognize these chumps. These guys don't know anything. They just got through somewhere where they became popular. I don't know why. I've listened to the Irwins. I've listened to McMillan's. There's this plant is more entertaining than what they have to say. Okay, right here. I can look at this and be more entertained than what these guys do. I don't know what the appeal is there. I don't know how did they kiss the right ass cheeks? I don't know. Did the algorithm work for them at the perfect time? I have no idea. No idea. These guys don't know anything. They know nothing. And the Lakers don't know anything right now. And you're going to know? I don't know. But at the same time, I do have common sense if you've been paying attention. See, they have to lie because they can't get anybody to listen to them. That's the problem.
Alan, let me ask you this. Do you actually believe a guy who can't even do an ad read? Ask Anthony Irwin to do an ad read, and I think you have your answer right there. But someone in the chat earlier said that, it's okay. The Lakers can take their time. It's already been a month for a coach.
We can't. We can't do the draft this week.
I was a year younger when they fired Darvin Ham.
How the hell are you going to have a new coach not have a decision on picking at 17? Should you keep the pick? The only way you get around that is if you don't pick, right? But are these guys? These guys have something in the coffers somewhere? Not likely. No, we got to keep talking about NBA players that are not NBA players that might get drafted at 55. The 55th pick, I swear, they've talked more about the 55th pick than the 17th pick. I'm serious.
I'm just commenting what happened with that. Oh, Kai Soto. Oh, Kai Soto's day back. Kai Soto is 3 times faster than Edie. Watch their highlights. Kai Soto beat Edie in any form of skill in the basketball. Melvin must be Filipino. Como está? Truly appreciated being here. Kai Soto, I know, was the fascination for many in the Filipino culture as far as him getting a chance in the league, but after not doing so well in summer league, he unfortunately decided to go back and play overseas. So I'm hoping he'll get a chance to go ahead and maybe try it again here in summer league this year. But in regards to sheer athleticism and speed, I understand Zach Edey is going to have his troubles, but he is endearing to some, not us per se at 17. I think, again, he's probably for me a late first rounder at best, maybe an early second rounder, but just because I think he is and Joe thinks he is does not mean that others feel that same way, Joe. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to push him to go even higher.
It's because it's the only name, one of the few names that you do know. So it makes you feel like, hey, you know what? This guy played well. He's the player of the year. He played at Purdue, went to the finals. And yes, there's some value there. But if you pick Edey anywhere below the late first, you have to be a dead team, like a Pistons team, a Charlotte team, where you can feed him and not have to worry about winning. Because the second you got to go play winning basketball, you're going to get smoked by Dallas, smoked by the Celtics, smoked by Denver, smoked by any team that's very good or elite. Because the spacing would be dead. Folks, the NBA has changed. If you don't spread the floor, you're toast. It's just not going to work. The days of throwing the ball down to the post and wasting 20 seconds and then hopefully making the shot are over. If you want to do that in the NBA, if you want to bring that back, I highly recommend a bad team select him. Maybe they can fill up the seats. Maybe he'll be an attraction. Maybe Indiana can find its way to get him since he played at Purdue. That might work. Off the bench, I think he has some value there. Could he become a good player? Could he become a really good player? Absolutely. If Brook Lopez could do what he ended up doing, especially late in his career, Zach Edey can be that guy. But I cannot risk picking that guy anywhere before at the very least 20. And the Lakers need the best player available at 17 because they have no talent outside three players. Three, like really talented players that are like, they can play elite. Sometimes, like someone like D'Angelo, but he really plays good, but he can have elite games. And then you have LeBron, who's a one-way player, and then you have AD, who's the real only dual elite player on the Lakers. And the Lakers can't use Edey because the whole point of trying to win a championship is you got to play against the elite. You won't last. He won't last. He'll be on the bench. You'd have to play in spurts.
Yeah.
But then you also have to have the So here, let me paint a picture. So the Lakers in 2020, I'm going to use that as an example. They had JaVale McGee, who started games, and they had Dwight Howard, who basically came in and helped, right? You had AD playing half the year power forward, half the year at center. Very similar to how the Lakers were winning in 08, 09, and 10. Powell would start at the power forward position. They slide him to the center position once they needed to use Lamar Odom's skill set more, and that usually was the end lineup. That was the end of the game lineup. So what was great about that team, again, is when they slid AD for primetime games, because you could get away with traditional basketball during the year to keep people fresh and to kind of maybe adjust to certain teams that might have a big, things like that. But overall, you're going to need you needed to slide AD to the 5 because now he becomes an absolute menace on defense. And then in front of him, you had Caruso, you had Kuzma, who was 6'10" with long arms, and then you have KCP. Oh, and you have Rondo, and you still had LeBron, who was playing a little bit of defense that year. You had essentially 5 guys that could D up, and on top of that, you could run quicker. You're not going to be able to run with Edie. You didn't really run with JaVale. JaVale could run, but I'd rather run with AD. So you see what I'm saying? You see how it works? And that's the NBA has gotten even more advanced in the spreading of the offense. All you got to do is watch the playoffs this year. What were the teams that were winning? Teams were winning were the ones that were able to spread the freaking defense out and shoot and make shots, get the ball moving. And then all the Celtics did to combat the Dallas problem was, look, we just stopped Kyrie and Luka. Luka doesn't move, so we have the athletes to put somebody in front of him to bother him. And then Kyrie turned into a magician in this series. All that love, all that kiss ass by LeBron and the NBA and Stephen A. Smith climaxing every 5 seconds about anything Kyrie Irving. I didn't even know he was in a series. I didn't even see him in Game 5. I didn't even know he was playing in Game 5. This is the problem, folks. Fair weather, different sayings here and there. Every 5 minutes, there's a different comment. There's different commentary.
JSJ, did you see the news that Dwight Howard is playing alongside his 2020 teammates, or 2021, or DeMarcus Cousins and Quinn Cook overseas? They're playing on the same team. I thought that was kind of funny when I saw that the other day. So again, though, with the Lakers, you got to go ahead and make sure you get the right pick at 17. And at this point, like Joe, we can't tank. We don't even have our pick next year, so we can't tank. We're in a rock and the hard place. We have a team that on the surface looks like you cannot build very well at this point, and you have a team that you can't all out tank because you don't have a future you can build upon because you don't have the pick next year to do so.
No, it's the talent right now is stuck, and the only talent you could acquire is your 2 draft picks and the exceptions that you can use in the summer. And you have to hit on both. You have to hit at 17 in a terrible draft, allegedly, and you have to hit with the mid-level exception. When I say hit, those guys have to be a problem next year. Because you have to bring back D'Angelo. You have to bring back D'Angelo. You have to hit at 17, and you have to hit with the MLE. And I mean hit as in like some guy that could be the 6th man of the year type hit. Imagine getting Malik Monk again. But this time he stays in LA, right? But see, here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I'm not calling Mike Brown a genius coach, but the Lakers have had this issue. They had taken care of half of it with Frank Vogel. And it just so happened that construction team was the perfect team for Frank Vogel. And he was able to create a winning formula because he was so stacked in the exact product that he needed for his product. You had 5 defenders on the court in the end of these games. That's why the Lakers were so good in 2020 and 2021. Now, you might be asking, Joe, they weren't really that good in 2020, 2021. You're right, record-wise and what ended up happening, but that was the worst year for AD. He was injured half the year. When he wasn't injured, they were potent. They were really good. They went up 2-1 against Phoenix. They ended up going to the finals that year, almost winning. And then as soon as he got hurt, that's when everything went down. Had he not gotten hurt, that team would have likely repeated. And that is the last time and before then it was Phil, where actually I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Mike Brown, his first year as a Laker coach, I actually thought he did a really good job, and he had a good staff. He had Clifford on there, he had Snyder on there. He had a really good coaching staff, and that's usually something I don't really care two craps about, assistant coaches. But that year, 2012, wasn't a bad year in terms of coaching for Mike Brown. I have said this on record that the reason why the Lakers lost to Oklahoma City that year was because of Kobe and Powell. They made devastating mistakes at the end of games in that series that ended up losing it for the Lakers. Kobe had one bad series. He had 1.5 bad series in his career. 1.5. I don't count the air ball thing in Utah. He was a kid. He shouldn't have even been in that position. Detroit, and then half the games in that series in Oklahoma. Otherwise, the Lakers would have beaten Oklahoma that year had Kobe and Powell not made really, really crucial mistakes towards the end of the games in that series. Other than that, and other than the 2 years that the years that Frank Vogel was coach, there hasn't been one coach other than Phil Jackson that has gotten on there and just you can just see this guy knows how to adjust offensively and defensively.
Couple quick questions I want to throw at you, Joe, that was sent in the chat. Best Lakers chat room that's out there is the Lakers Fast Break. Pale Fox said something to the effect, asking if the Lakers don't sign LeBron and D'Lo. Somehow it all goes wrong between those two. Does that mean we're essentially giving the New Orleans Pelicans a top 5 pick?
I can't answer that. I can't answer half that question because there's no way LeBron's not coming back. But if you lose D'Angelo, the Lakers are in huge trouble. Okay. So there could be a lottery pick coming for New Orleans next year. Absolutely. Because you're likely going to have to hire a substandard coach at this point, either someone who's never coached or someone who has coached that doesn't going to command the team, really. They'll tune them out. And then on top of that, you lose your starting point guard, which is absolutely desperately needed on this team. It's already bad enough with D'Angelo. You lose him now. You lose that firing power for an 82-game season, and hopefully a couple times during the playoffs, you're toast. You cannot replace that. And Gabe Vincent ain't going to be the guy, folks. The Lakers have to somehow – look, if – I'm trying to figure something out here. I'm gonna read this to you guys, and you tell me how this happened. Let me pull it up. I had some information that I got today. So Brad Stevens. Let's look at the stats here in the last few years for Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens traded Kemba Walker for Al Horford. It looks great now, but at the time you're like, why are you trading dead for dead, right? Because we thought Horford was done. Turned out to be, joke was on us. Cool. Didn't trade Jaylen Brown because that's what people do, right? As soon as you lose a series, hey, you got to trade this guy. Hey, you got to trade that. Hey, you got to do this guy. Hey, Jason Tatum is sad that Jaylen won the MVP. Oh, Jason Tatum can't hit a shot from anywhere, right? There. Okay. They didn't trade him. They traded Langford for Derek White. No one knew Derek White was going to be what he was. Why is it a coincidence? Every time they get a player, he plays better in Boston. Maybe you need to start looking at Boston's formula there and the way they train and the way they coach these guys. Why is it every time they go there, they become really good players? So put that in the formula as well. They traded Smart for Porzingis, and on top of that, they got 2 freaking first-round picks. That was a steal. Absolute steal. That was robbery, actually. The big one, Brogdon for Williams. I'm sorry, Brogdon and Williams. Williams, who was injured every 5 seconds, and Brogdon, who was injured every 6 seconds for Holiday, which is the solidifier on why the Celtics won the title this year.
Just good move after good move, John.
Why is it? Yeah. Why is it that they got 2 corpses for Holiday? Why can't we take our two corpses in Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt and get someone like a Holiday? Why? That's the question I want to ask out there. And I don't want to hear because the Lakers suck, because Genie sucks. No, I want a legitimate reason. Where's Empire Jeff? Are you tending to your puppy also? Get back over here and answer the question. Everybody's got a dog these days they got to go tend to. What's going on here?
I guess he is tending to the dog on that. JSJ says, LFB, this guy reminds me of the guy who was preaching Zach LaVine. I know. We as fans, we fall in love with players for whatever reason. I can understand, being a fellow Filipino, why there's so much admiration there. I do not think, to be honest with you, Melvin, that the reason why he's not playing in the NBA is because of the fact that there's any type of bias. Because of the fact, I think the Lakers or any NBA team for that matter would love to have a Filipino player a full Filipino player on the roster, just to get that kind of money coming in, even if it's just for that. But if he's not even close to being available or ready to play in the NBA, as I saw firsthand when I watched him in Summer League last year live in Vegas, he is just not ready at that time for prime time. He wasn't ready in FIBA when you saw on FIBA last summer. He may have developed over the course of the past few months. I haven't kept close track of it, to be honest with you. So hopefully if he goes back to Summer League this year in 3 weeks, he can get a better opportunity with a team and latch on. And who knows? I think he could stay in the G League or in Europe and one of the higher leagues and really test out to see if he can play in the league. But right now, I could tell you with certainty that skill level wise, Melvin, he just was not ready for the NBA. I could tell you for a fact he was just not ready for the NBA. That's why he didn't get drafted, and that's why he left the Summer League roster to go play back overseas. Not trying to be disrespectful in any way. My wife is Filipina, so and my kids are Filipino, so no way am I trying to be disrespectful to the Filipino culture. He just wasn't ready at that time. He may be ready now, so if he does come back to play, we'll see. 7'3", you can't teach that. But to say he's better than Zach Edey, or I would have to see them play as of right now to make a determining factor on that, in all respect to you. So, but Zach Edey is someone I don't put at the top 15 to 20 players right now out there. But who knows? That these scouts may become fascinated with his size and think they could do something with that. And we saw, Joe, this year, and it's been commented on, that the Celtics were the first really true 3-and-D team where each and every player, because Golden State had Kevon Looney and Draymond Green. I don't know if you call Draymond Green a 3-and-D player.
He was
kind of, but
you could say he was.
When he's hitting his shot,
he was a timely 3-point shooter. Obviously, he was great on defense. No, absolutely.
Looney, but Looney doesn't shoot. Yeah, but this is the first time you actually saw all 5 individuals play 3-and-D. But I don't think the Lakers can follow that same path because AD is not a 3-point shooter.
No.
And when they tried to make him one last year, it just, as I predicted, it was pretty.
I think the 3-and-D player, the elite 3-and-D player, is a lot more rare than you think. It's very hard to think of that player because you want to initially go, okay, Kobe and LeBron, but those guys weren't really 3-point shooters. They were D guys, but they weren't 3-point shooters. They weren't really that good at the 3. Klay Thompson is the first thing that comes to my mind in the last decade. That's a legit 3-and-D player. Even Steph Curry to me isn't a 3-and-D player. But Klay is. And it's what separates Klay Thompson is what separates a dynasty from a one-hit wonder. Klay Thompson with Klay Thompson with Curry is the difference between one championship and 4.
Mhm.
As far as what is another 3-and-D play?
And please, everybody, please. I was just gonna say, can you please refrain, everybody in the chat, from posting bogus news, because LeBron James has not signed a 3-year contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. He still has a year left on the Lakers contract. He has to get out of first and tell the Lakers he has to get out of by the end of this month first before he can go sign with the Lakers or anywhere else. So please don't put that out there, please. That's not appreciated.
I don't think are you, Pale Fox? Are you saying Iguodala was a 3-and-D player? Iguodala was never a 3-point shooter.
No, come on.
I'm telling you guys, that's a rare talent. And Klay Thompson in his prime might have been the greatest 3-and-D player. The reason why it's hard to assess that before 2010 is because the league was really a 3-point shooting league until the last decade. So it's hard to go back and say, well, back in the 80s, you could say that Michael Cooper was a 3-and-D player. He was known as the guy who shot the 3-pointer. And he was a defensive, player of the year in 87 and a defensive player. Larry Bird said that he was probably the feistiest, hardest player to play against. If you look at the 90s, nothing comes up right away. Nothing comes up right away. So it's very rare. They're rare. The 3-and-D players are rare because the 3-point, I'd say it's better to ask that question in about 20 to 30 years when the 3-point shot becomes more an integral part of NBA history. Kawhi, you could say, yeah, but is he really a 3-point shooter? He's a mid-range master, though. But I don't know about 3. Paul isn't really a defensive, like a defensive guy. And he's kind of like, he's like 75% for both. He's never been like really good at shooting the 3 or really good on defense. He's just really good. Pippen was never a 3-point shooter. It's really hard to do that one. It really is.
Eli's here. Just wanted to. So that brings me to the comments that Rich Paul made in honor of Eli.
Great names by that, folks. Hell of a list. Thanks for putting that up. That was good.
See, that's the positive side of what you guys are putting out there. Rich Paul from Clutch, head of Clutch, definitively said that. He talked about reaffirming why.
Bruno, that's a good one too. Nick was. He was. D. Scott was really the 3-point shooter then, and D. Scott was him and Dale Ellis and Curry's
Andre
pops.
Kirilenko. Sunday was mentioned.
Kirilenko wasn't really a 3-point shooter. He was like maybe a notch below Tayshaun Prince.
I'd have to look at his stats. Yeah, because I looked at Iguodala's stats. He was really never a 3-point shooter with Golden State. I can say that with certainty.
Robert Horry was a clutch 3-point and D player.
Yes.
Not fully.
Not always. Guy. Get like 40th game of the season during the regular season. You may not be able to get the same kind of effort from Robert Horry than you do in the playoffs and championship. But getting back to what I was saying with Eli on the Suns, Rich Paul did make a statement today. He was talking about their reasoning behind only giving Phoenix and LA workouts for Bronny James, and definitively said that LeBron is not taking a minimum contract. So that would leave him effectively out of being able to be signed by Phoenix. Now,
Eric,
Phoenix, you're more than welcome.
Boom. Bruce Bowen.
Danny Green. Bruce Bowen.
Bruce Bowen, 3-point shooter, defensive, first team defensive type player, and a 3-point shooter. He was
don't ask him to shoot free throws.
He was so good at shooting the 3 that he was terrible at the free throw line. That's hilarious.
Absolutely. Part of his game. Danny Green, good. I mean, he helped us win a championship. Absolutely. But yeah, Joe. So when you hear Rich Paul's comments, and again, Eli, if you want Bronny at 22, Joe and I would be absolutely over the moon to give you guys Bronny at 22. more than welcome to have him at 22.
And whoever the GM on the team is it still Jones?
Yes, it's still Jones.
I would fire him the second that pick went through.
Yep. So you can have him. We don't want him on 55. We don't want him
Anyone
17.
who drafts Bronny James should be fired.
Yep, I agree.
Sorry. You want to pick him up as a two-way player? Put him on your G League team? Sure.
Oh, but they said they would not accept.
Yeah, and Rich Paul, you can suck a freaking nut, dude. Seriously, you have the nerve to make those demands? Get the hell out of here, man. Get Rich Paul.
So getting back to Clay, I mean, Clay has been talked about for the Lakers. What Clay is asking for, what he's probably talking to Golden State right now about, because they do have the negotiating rights to do so right now, that could be a very far apart situation. You have a player, again, whose best days are clearly behind him. And again, I use Grayson. You don't want me to do it, but I'm using the D-Lo Grayson Allen territory. Is he worth about $18.5 million per year to sign Klay Thompson? Do you think he's even still worth that much today? I don't personally. I don't think he is worth that much. I think he's good on a mini mid-level or a mid-level, maybe at best, but even then, it's kind of tough for a guy who just went 0-10 in this last game playing for the Warriors. It's tough to say. I'm sorry. It's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, it's great and whatnot, but we all get that. I mean, Russell Westbrook, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's going to be looking for the minimum deal this coming year. He wants to still stay with a team, any team at this point. It's getting to that point for Klay Thompson. So,
yeah, Klay. I don't know if somebody's going to give him a 2-year deal for 20 per with a team option or something. I think he's warranted that extension, but you can't drop 4 or 5 year deals for him. Unfortunately, he's just not going to make it. I believe that he needs to be in Ron Harper mode now, and Ron Harper mode is he knew when his knee tore up, he needed to be the Ron Harper he was in the 3-peat with the Bulls and the back-to-back title team in 01 and 01.
I thought he was a free agent. I'll look that up. I could have sworn he was a free agent. You're saying he signed to an $8 million deal?
Who?
7.8? Russell Westbrook.
He signed now?
He has a player. Oh, he has a player option for $4 million. He has a player option for $4 million.
Let's look here. So the Clippers.
He may or may not take it. So he has a player option for $4 million, to be exact. Pale.
Why would the Clippers? Hold on.
They signed him. First year was 3.8.
Oh,
4.0.
Oh yeah. So he's likely going to take it, right?
But this is Westbrook. He may think of himself in a better light.
I don't think so. I think he wants to stay in LA. He wants to open up the new arena.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that this might be his last season. Unless he wants to be Ricky Henderson the next 5 years and just bounce around.
Laker, under no circumstances should the Lakers ever bring Russell Westbrook back. Crazy talk. Absolutely crazy talk.
First of all, the Clippers need to figure out how they're going to do anything positive paying Kawhi Leonard $150 million for the next 3 seasons when they can't get him to finish. Oh, and they have to also figure out if they want to keep James Harden. Oh, and are they going to start over next year if Paul George picks up his contract, which he's not.
Exactly. Or, which now he's going to walk, and conveniently was talking to Joel Embiid the other night.
If I'm the Clippers, I think you have to start over. But are they going to start over in the new arena with nothing? Because if they let Harden go, and Paul George signs somewhere else, and what are you going to do? Let's say Russell Westbrook picks up his option. Now you have a one-legged Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook. It's not good. I'm gonna say this, because they want to open up the season. They're gonna probably say, well, let's give it another year. So maybe they sign Paul George for what he wants and deal
looks
with
good
it.
on the billboards, Joe,
Yeah.
on the 405 and the 110.
Yeah, they deal with that, and then they just see if they can make a run at it in the first season in Inglewood.
And then, the same old things happen again for them. Kawhi breaks down. Somebody else will break down, and then they just get to the playoffs.
And this won't end either. This is a very scary time for the Clippers,
because they're an older team than the Lakers.
If you sign Paul George, that means you're signing him for
4 years.
Signing for 4 or 5.
Is he eligible still for 5? He might still be, because that would be a year 38 season.
So let's say that they just say 4. Let's say they say 4.
Okay.
At what, 200 mil?
Yeah.
I guess you could.
Oh yeah, Eric, that PJ Tucker salary was bad.
If I'm Paul George, I go to Philly.
He was talking. I guess I told you
again,
to Joel.
Do you trade one injury-riddled player for another? Is Embiid going to come up lame again in the end, just like Kawhi does every year? That's the. He might want to just stay at home and be a part of the new arena and the new LA, and be in LA still. I think that's probably where my head is starting to figure it might go, especially if Ballmer decides, look, I don't give a crap. I'm just going to sign everybody.
I mean, that could really get ugly, Joe, because they're even older than the Lakers, and that's hard to do, especially with LeBron.
What does LeBron have to do with it?
Because LeBron brings up the average age of the team of the Lakers, but because the Clippers have so many 30-plus players on their team, that team can break down at literally any moment.
Good for them. I wish them very well.
Los Dodgers. There you go, Joe. Los Dodgers in the house. Man, tough break on bets, quite literally.
Yeah, today's game kind of sucked too.
Norman Powell's another one. Yeah, Norman Powell, I think it's under the radar. I think he'd be a good fit somewhere else if he wants to go ahead and get more touches, but that's just me. But I think Norman Powell's a good player. I think that in that lineup with all those aging superstars, it's hard for him to really stand out. Rajo says, I actually think the Pistons will hire JJ Redick and will bring LeBron with him. Rajo, you've been very interesting tonight, Rajo, with your comments.
Rajo, you're the guy that follows the Anthony Irwins and the McMenamins, probably, right? And you're the one that always.
He was the breaking news guy earlier.
They always. You're the ones that you're the type that gets all that clickbait stuff on YouTube too. You're the reason why those guys stay in business.
Easy, I'll give you that, but not by much. They don't have really a whole plethora of young talent as well. The most of their team is reliant on older players, much older players, the Clippers. So we'll see. I think both teams are really kind of in nervous time as far as what they need to do. But at least the Clippers have the availability, I think, to draft at least next year, whereas the Lakers don't. So the Lakers can't tank. So the Lakers are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So they essentially probably have to bend down or bend over for
they're stuck more between a ding and a dong.
Yeah, something like that. You could say. I wasn't going to say it that way, but okay, you can. JSJ says Anthony Irwin is a clown. I don't want to say he's a clown. I just say he just is not someone you should believe when he's saying these things he's hearing. It just, you got to give him credit. He's been able to earn himself out a living, reporting on the Lakers, but still, he's not very good on the stick. He's just not very good on his ad reads and Joe, he puts Joe to sleep. So there you go. But
who cares?
you see, who cares? There you go.
Who gives a crap? How do you earn a living? What does he make? 40 grand a year?
I think he makes quite a bit more than
What
that.
does he sell soap on there?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he sells a lot of things. I don't listen to his show. I stopped listening to it quite a long time ago because I
Well, he's
started.
gotten a lot of advertisement on this show tonight.
I started the Lakers fast break because of how bad he was on Locked On Lakers. Kind of gave me inspiration to say, if this guy sucks so bad and he's got that large of an audience, I'm at least good at what I do and I can do so much better. Yes, JY. Yes, she did tear her ACL, Cameron Brink, and she is out for the Olympics on the 3x3 tournament for Team USA, and then she's out for the season for the Sparks.
That happened to Ionescu too. Problem is they're coming from college, and then like a week later they're playing in the pros. Anytime you go from amateur to pro, there's a transition, right? And the game is you got more talent obviously in the pros, and you got more aggressiveness and more, I guess, talent that's going to be, I don't even know the word to use, and their bodies don't adjust. And her game
by the way, MEC, I think Nicholas Batum has retired. He is going to compete for France in the Olympics. And I think that was it. This is his last year in the NBA. He is retired unless he has a change of heart. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry about that. Yeah, he just MEZ said Nicholas Batum would be a 3-and-D vet for a contending team. Yeah, but no longer, because I think again he has announced his retirement from the NBA. But yes, Cameron Brink tearing her ACL. It's a devastating blow for the Sparks and for Team USA. At least the 3x3 tournament she was going to be in for them. But it is, of course, the Lakers fast break. It's Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching, listening. So you're not a Monty Williams guy. You're not a JJ Redick guy. The field of coaching candidates, it's not gotten much better since May the 3rd, since we fired Darvin Ham. Rick Fox. I don't know. 3-and-D guy, Rick Fox. Would you categorize him as a...
It's hard to say before 2010.
Yeah.
There's really no the 3-point shooters were specialists, usually guys that were role players. They were never really the guy. Ray Allen was a 3-point guy that was a Hall of Famer, right? But he wasn't a defender. Reggie Miller was a 3-point guy, but he wasn't really a defender. So it's hard to say anything before 210. If I had the first name that pops in my head, the greatest 3-and-D player is probably Klay Thompson.
Okay. Wouldn't say that's far off for me as well. I think that, again, at his height, he was probably the best at doing that, especially the fact that he could just absolutely obliterate you with 3-pointers when he got on a hot streak. Eric says Chris Mullin. Was he really that good on the defensive end, Chris? No. Eric?
No. Klay, he was a phenomenal shooter, but I never noticed he was I don't think he was a bad defender, just not a stalwart, not someone you would consider a D guy. From what I saw.
Eli says, as a Suns fan, Monty is one stubborn guy. That's something also Joe said in his beginning.
And most are. I'm not gonna sit here and just say Monty is the stubborn. Most of these coaches are stubborn as hell.
I don't think so, Pale. I don't think he's the best 3-and-D player Tatum is right now. I think Tatum, his shooting has gone away from him. Right now, you could say Jaylen Brown played a more effective series at 3-and-D than him, so you can have that argument there. But there's other players out there in the league, I think, that in fact, even on his own team, Derek White shot from a better percentage at 3-and-D and is also a great defensive player as well. So Tatum has a better all-around game as far as you saw how he was able to help rebound and did a lot of the playmaking, Joe. So when he, in fact, his shot left him for a good percentage of the finals until he decided to start going inside more. He was able to go ahead and help his team win because of his playmaking skills. Dan Marley. Ooh, I'd have to check out his stats.
Dan Marley was never really either or.
Still remember that dunk.
You're thinking of Tom Chambers.
Oh, Tom Chambers. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, Dan Marley wasn't the 3-and-D guy. He was neither or, but solid player. And probably the Brad Pitt of the NBA in the early 90s. People were.
I'm gonna look at.
People were enamored with his physique. He used to have that really cool vein right here. Thunder Dan.
Career 35% shooter, never shot above 38% from three.
Yeah, it's again. There's a little snippet on The Last Dance where I don't know if Michael was lying. I never heard it until The Last Dance, where he said that Jerry Krause really liked Dan Marley, and he took Dan Marley to school in '93 in the finals. I think Michael was lying. I didn't believe him. No one ever said anything like that back then. So if it was said in secret, or Michael had an issue with motivation. So sometimes he had to make stuff up.
I just think it's a different game. It's really hard to say 3-and-D guys because those 3-and-Ds, the three was not for a great part of the past up until the recent years, Joe. The three was not something that was accentuated and pounded in there as far as a way of life for NBA players, where now is the NBA is heavily reliant on the three ball and efficiency from there. So I think it's a different game than what a lot of these individuals are saying on the chat, as far as, because if you look at the stats, if you looked at based off their accuracy, many of them never got close to 40% from behind the arc. And now these days, that's the standard, what you go by as far as what you would consider at least one part of the good 3-and-D player.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to gauge before the 3-point shot became a staple for the stars.
JJ might go to Detroit. That's fine. BTS. I mean, if that's what he wants to do, but he could also go to Cleveland. Cleveland needs a coach. Why hasn't Cleveland hired a coach? Why haven't the Lakers hired a coach?
We just talked
about JJ all over the place.
They're going to have to fork out $75 million for a coach that's not there. Now they're going to go spend another $75 million for someone who's never coached. Folks, seriously, get your rear heads, or I should say, get your rear ends out of your head. Killing me over here. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, MEC says Dan Marley was a great for a 3-point shooter for his era.
Sure. Sort of. Greg Hodges was a good 3-point shooter, but he never played. He was more known for the 3-point shooting contest during the All-Star game.
I mean, I just told you his stats. He earlier in his career twice got 38%. And then the rest of the years never really came close to 40.
You go back to Larry Bird's stats. Larry Bird was considered a 3-point shooter in an era that they didn't shoot 3-pointers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you want to hear? I might have said this on a previous show, but I can't remember. Larry, you want to know what his career average was in attempts per game? His average for the entire 13 years he played. 1.9, just under 2 attempts a game. And he was known as the 3-point shooter. That's how different the NBA is. Imagine if Larry Bird shot 8, 9 times like they do now. Yeah. Trajan Langdon probably trying to swing Borrego to Detroit. Rashard Lewis. Rashard Lewis was another solid player. Rashard Lewis is the guy I wanted Kuzma to be.
Daniel, I think Trajan Langdon, I think since there's such a team that's bad off already, I think you go with a young assistant coach on that team, Joe, right about now, and take your chances to see if you can build and get the right coach with that. I think that they don't need to spend the 5 for $65 million or whatever on an expensive head coach. They can go with an assistant coach in the league or whatever prospect that they want and be fine with that, Joe, because they're Detroit. What are they going to do? Lose? That's what they've been doing.
If I was Detroit, I would seriously start considering some kind of way to get Tim Bonley out of Minnesota.
You can't do it for another year.
I know. So that means they got to stay the course right now, and then they got to get someone that knows what the hell they're doing over there.
Well, they just hired Trajan Langdon. They fired Troy Weaver. So Trajan Langdon, a very long-term assistant GM. With
all due respect to Trajan Langdon, I don't know if I guess it's a way to go, but how are you going to really? I don't know how we're gonna be able to gauge Trajan Langdon on this. He's not going to have any talent.
Subscriber, huh?
Who's going to go to Detroit?
Cool.
No one.
Thanks so much for subscribing, Lonnie. Truly appreciate it.
So that means they have to hit on the draft like Minnesota did. They have to hit in the draft like Denver did. Minnesota had to trade half a state to get Gobert over there, only to get punked 2 years in a row. It's tough. It's tough to be in Detroit. It's tough to be in Minnesota and Denver and these places where no one really wants to go. So you have to get lucky and get a bunch of talent through the draft. And I don't want to see how I don't know where Detroit. What were they? They were the worst team the last 2 years, and they got 5th picks both years. How different would Detroit be right now if they had gotten Wembanyama, right?
Yep.
It's a bummer.
Weaver would probably still have his job.
Which is stupid because that doesn't take talent. And I'm going to be watching the Spurs. I'm going to be watching the Spurs here. I know the Spurs have Wembanyama and they're the Spurs, but the Spurs have been sucking a lot lately. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do next.
Alice, by the way, asked earlier, what is the best Lakers draft pick of the past 10 years?
That's a great question. Best pick. Shoot. Probably D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, if you base it off of, or could you say Julius Randle?
I'd rather have D'Angelo than Julius Randle.
Okay. I'm just talking about career. I was just talking about career-wise. I didn't say who you'd rather have. I agree with you, but
I think D'Angelo has a better career than Julius.
Okay.
By just this much.
And same thing with Ingram, just by that much.
Ingram can be better than both, but he might need to go.
Player?
He might need to go. He might need to go to a team that needs the third guy, like Philly.
Yeah, where was that player? Like you said, just a month ago or so when they had a chance in the playoffs. So they needed him to step up, and he didn't do it. So,
and I've never been a fan of Brandon Ingram, even when he was a Laker. I don't like his demeanor. I don't like his look. I don't like his attitude. His attitude isn't bad. I just don't like his attitude in terms of competitiveness. He just seems like a guy that just lofts. He does enough to be as good as he can be, and that's it. And it's just sad because you look at Jaylen Brown and know that you could have had him. Would have been nice. But I think Boston had a lot to do with that too. I think Boston allowed Jaylen Brown, with all the criticisms and all the failed runs, they stuck with it. That's why when you look at it beyond the Celtic thing, that's why you look at the organization and say, this is how you're supposed to run it. You don't just quit when you have talent like that. You keep building. Where are you going to get those guys? What are you going to trade them for? Brandon Ingram? What would they have done? You look at all those great teams in the past, they all had to go through something. The Detroit Pistons, before they won, they had to go through the Celtics. The Bulls, they had to go through the Pistons before they broke through.
Xbox is wondering how your housing development job is going in Temecula.
How my what?
Housing development job is going in Temecula.
Oh, it's good. We got a project right now that we started Monday. There was a lot of concrete work done, a lot of squared pads of concrete. So we're putting turf in between, which is a very tedious, very methodical process. And they have a pool, and things are going to look amazing. You're going to put just enough green in between that's going to make it pop.
Brian, I am for that trade at the AD. I will say it got us a title. It got us to the promised land. We did have to pay the piper later on, and literally we'll still have to pay the piper next year, but it got us a title. It got us to the promised land once, and it got us AD for that year. So I'll take that title any chance. If you should tell any respectable fan, what would your choice be, a title or not to have a title? I think fans would take that title and just deal with the consequences from there. So, but for that kind of talk, as far as what you can do, the detail on what Joe's talking about, please, if you're interested and you live in the Southern California area, you need to go and search out Joe's company, Synblades. He's got it right there on his jacket. Synblades with a Y, SYNBLADES.com. So hopefully, Brian says he wasn't with the AD trade. It got us a title. Again, I can't argue with getting us a title. Would we have gotten a title with the crew that we had there at the time? I don't think so. I think that it was a necessary move. Should we have given up all the draft choices to give up to get it? Could we have negotiated better?
Folks,
well, look who was the negotiator.
That trade was perfect. The trade that killed this team was the Westbrook trade. You got rid of two huge assets off this team. Guys that knew their roles. One was young and coming up. But we got impatient. We got mad at Kuzma because he couldn't hit open shots. But he did everything else well. He was a good teammate. He was playing really good defense. This is the part I keep talking about with the Celtics. They didn't give up on these guys. They panicked. And LeBron had a lot to do with that, and probably that little pipsqueak Rich Paul did too. We got to go get a third guy to combat what's going on in Brooklyn.
Remember they had the dinner together, Westbrook and AD and LeBron, that infamous dinner together, and planned it all out.
Yeah, that's why you leave general managing and team stuff in-house. You can talk to agents, you can talk to players about influences, but at the end of the day, you don't sabotage your team.
But very disappointing so far, what we've seen from what the Lakers are doing. Will they do something here in the next couple of days in regards to talking to LeBron, talking D'Lo, about extensions. Also, as well, maybe a coach would be nice, but we'll see. Again, we'll be here to report it. Trying to see if I can get a conversation going with the Legend 350 on a possible conversation in regards about the Atlanta Hawks, what they'll do or what he will think they will do at number one. Plus, are there any trades to break up that backcourt? And could the Lakers be a beneficiary of it? We'll talk about that. Hopefully, the Lakerholics will be here on the weekend. And then, of course, also as well, Joe and I will be here in case any breaking news happens. And next Tuesday, again, our mock draft at 3 p.m. Pacific. I'm looking to start it at. Joe and Stone will be here. Hopefully, Sean, Laker Tom wants to draft for the Lakers. Hopefully, we'll get a lot more people to buy in to see if they can go ahead and pick for some of these teams realistically. And don't say Bronny James at every pick because you guys are trying to mock us or trying to make fun of it. Hopefully we could get some serious people in here and be involved with this because I'd love to have you aboard choosing for some of these teams. Laker Tom's going to pick for the Lakers, and hopefully Legend 350 will pick for Atlanta, and hopefully I get Alfred Esmond to pick for Orlando, maybe some other teams as well. So let us know if you'd like to be a part of it or just be in the chat and be a part of it. But please, serious picks. Or if you want to think if you do a trade, come up with a trade of your own to go ahead and talk to one of the GMs of one of the other teams that's doing it with us on the mock draft. Please let us know if you would be available for that. Yeah, Alan, when I first put out the mock draft, he said he wants to be there. He wants to be there for the Lakers and wants to pick at number 17. No, it's not mock draft as in the college players that are available today in the draft, like mock draft. Alan's just trying to really get on Laker Tom about Steph Curry. So, yeah.
What happened about Steph Curry?
He was joking that said Tom at 17 would pick Steph Curry. So
for what?
Our mock draft next week. So he will still pick Steph Curry.
Okay. In this draft, Steph Curry, even at his advanced age, would go number one.
Yes. JSJ says, I can't wait for Joe's reaction to Bronny at 55. Well, if he goes 17, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the channel for the day. I'm going to walk off the channel for the day. If they pick it,
there isn't going to be a reaction, guys. I'm going to be gone. The reaction is ghost.
They're going to pick him at 55. I have a feeling. It's going to piss me off as well. But the
Bye-bye.
17 is the one I really am mad at.
I'm going back to football. I'll have to have a show about football or the sports. I'm a sportsman.
He's trying to, Eric. He's trying to control every player who gets picked.
The clown doesn't understand he's alienating his own advances because no one is going to want to do work with the Lakers when you have that on top of the fact that you have to deal with Rob Pelinka. He's only making it worse. This is what happens when people are in the entitled business and tunnel visioned. Selfishness, disrespect. You go against your own progression. Or in the end, it's not about winning. If they're doing this because they don't care about winning at the heart of it, then yeah, it makes sense. But you know damn well that I got to say that because there'd be a riot.
We'll find out what happens, my friend.
There is no way I'm going to take your team seriously if you draft someone who is not capable of playing in the NBA, especially when you're talent deficient, especially like the Lakers. The Lakers cannot afford to not get the best talent available in the areas that they're in control of. You don't do that. What are you doing then? This is no time to develop anything. You have to pick the best player at 55. You have to. Whether they pan out or not is not the point. And by the way, they've panned out a lot of second-round picks, so you could almost be even more strict on that. You guys have hit on these a lot in the last decade. I would say the Lakers the last decade have done better in the second round, considering the fact that it's the second round in terms of decisions versus what they've done in the first. Why? Because picking second isn't hard. You're picking second. And everyone thinks, oh, we should have picked Tatum. We should have picked Jaylen Brown. Yeah, it's easy now. Portland should have picked Jordan. Stockton shouldn't have gone to Utah in 84. He should have been the second pick. Of course, you don't know that now, or you know that now.
We'll find out, Joe, but I'm a firm believer that they'll do the stupid thing and take him at 55. Pale Fox, Castleton, again, he's 24-25, I think. We'll see how much he's developed in Summer League. He says he's been working on his shot, been working on a three-point shot, because everybody now has to work on a three-point shot instead of just trying to become a better player on what they do specifically. So we'll see if that's helped his game out. He says he's going to flash it out in Summer League, but he is, remember, an older player, so we'll see what he could still give us. So anything at all. He still has to fight to actually still make the roster. So we'll see what happens. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Again, we'll report to you on anything that's going down with the Lakers coaching fiasco, circus, whatever you want to call it. Plus also as well, any news, updates on LeBron and D'Angelo or anything that's going on, potential trades, draft choices. We'll go ahead and talk about it. Plus, of course, we've got our crew here, including Stone Anson. Please support him at report_court. He's doing a lot of media appearances, including ours in the coming days. So please join him there. And then also don't forget the NBA draft. We will be live on playback and also here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch as well, for that matter, I believe, for the live coverage of the NBA draft on both days, Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully the Lakers won't be stupid, but I certainly won't put it past them. So we'll see what happens. But Joe, any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
M-Easy, I'd say that's probably a good pick. Although I haven't seen the draft picks back in the 50s and 60s yet. We do know who the best third round pick.
That was when they could draft like 6, 7, 8 rounds, correct?
We know who the best third round pick ever was.
Yeah.
Michael Cooper at 60.
Yeah.
Which would have been a second round pick in today's draft because there's 30 teams. So, yeah, good one. I'll roll with that one, at least from the information I have now.
Yeah. Zubats was a great second round pick. We saw how he's played for the Clippers. Fortunately, he was not allowed to play to his full potential on the Lakers, which still hurts me to this day. But yeah, Nick Van Exel, what a great player. What a fun player to watch. He was just fun and entertaining to watch. He was a good player. And again, I still wish him the best even to this day. Alan, it was great to have you back in the conversation once again. We missed you for a few days. Glad to have you back. Brian,
I didn't miss you.
I missed Alan. How about that? I missed Alan. But Joe, any last pearls of wisdom before we head on out?
Yeah, stop listening to hacks. Stop clicking on their garbage. You'll get less of it.
Okay. And on that note, once again, it is, of course, Gerald Glassford along with Joe Soro. Please support Joe Soro today at Simblades, SimbladesWorldwide.com, and support my other show, Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for more fun and NBA news and chat as only we can give it right here, the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.